Nupataya Krishna Presaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्य देशतारि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are supposed to do chapter 12, isn't it not? Okay. So devotional service
Krishna
chapter.
Mataji. Yes, Mataji. 12th chapter.
12th in the starting. Okay. So Arjuna Uvacha एवं सतता युक्ता ये भक्तास्त्वं पर्युपासते ये चापि अक्षरम् अव्यक्तं तेषां के योग वित्तमः. Anybody would like to tell that sloka? Okay. This one Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in a devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Purport by Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Now here we will see that Krishna himself is answering the question of Arjuna. So that doubt is always there, which is better, that Nirakaravadi or to see Krishna's, this worship of Krishna's form, which is better. Purport. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. So the jnanis, those who are reading so many books, they are worshipping the impersonal Brahman. And then here, these devotees, they engage all the senses in the worship of the Lord. We find in this chapter that of the different process for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. So that is what this chapter will explain about the devotional service. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth. But Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service to him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. So even for a person who is having impersonal conception also, that is also not perfect realization. The perfect realization is to know that Krishna has a form and we have to do devotional service unto him. That is the highest form of worship. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. That is jnanis, yogis, and then you have the bhaktas. Three types of this one is there. So here it says Arjuna again asks again which is better, personalism or impersonalism. All chapters of Bhagavad Gita directing one to personalism. And here it is given. Universal form worshipped by impersonalists. Okay. Arjuna attached to Krishna's personal form, that too two-handed form of Krishna. Okay. Now, those who worship the Supreme Lord directly. Okay. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that the living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark. The more we realize Krishna, what happens? The spiritual spark or the spiritual body within us grows. And the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living being, living entity as being part and parcel of the supreme whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. So we are cooperators. We are not the enjoyers. We are not the enjoyers and we are not the controllers, but we are the cooperator. That is, we have to means people think like this. All these people, living beings, they think they are the controllers and they are trying to control the everything that material nature. They are trying to control and they are enjoying. In reality, we have to cooperate with the Lord in His enjoyment. And so we are the cooperators. And when we give cooperation for His enjoyment, we will also enjoy. That is our position, not otherwise. Then again in the English chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at one transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. So what happens is, that is called this one, at the end of a lifetime, when you are doing devotional service, you are directly transferred. How is it possible? Because when you are engaged in the service of Krishna, here also, you're using all the service, all the senses in the service of Krishna. And there also you're doing the same. So both are on the absolute plane. So whether you're doing devotional service here or whether you're doing it in God's kingdom, both are on the absolute plane. So there is no difference between the two. So directly you're transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. That yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantar atmana. This one, what is that? Shabdava labhate. So like that, this one comes in that he says, Krishna himself says of all the yogis who always think, who abides in him, who thinks of him, and then who does transcendental service unto him is the topmost. And he is united with him in yoga. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and it's not manifest. So it is beyond that. It is in the this one spiritual realm. So, but it doesn't have. Yes, tell me.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this Sri Ravi Shankar and Patanjali yogas, these all will come under this Mataji, impersonalist.
No, because from what I heard, Ravi Shankar, he talks about mode of goodness more. That's all. That's what is there. Patanjali yoga, I don't know whether the ultimately Patanjali yoga. See, nowadays people do so many kinds of asana, but the aim will not be to this one. See, the purpose of yoga also is to know Krishna. If that is not done, then Patanjali yoga means it's just asana. Even so many they are telling no fast that this one for fast beats they do asanas like that. But that and all yoga, I don't know about Patanjali yoga or Ravi Shankar, but I don't think they are worshipping on the impersonal Brahman also. I don't think so.
Yes,
but I'm not sure because see what I don't know, I cannot tell you. No, so I'm not sure about that. But this one, ultimately, whatever it might be, what ultimate aim should be to realize Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I will tell, I have an experience with this. Even both Patanjali and this one, Ravi Shankar. But the time of this meditation, what they are telling, no, just imagine yourself as like you are living on this earth. Then just imagine the sunlight is spreading from through your head. It is spreading throughout the world, wherever you are, like that. So they are concentrating on sunlight, I think.
No, I don't
In
know. Maybe
meditation.
Aham Brahmasmi. I don't know. No, maybe it is
Yeah.
Aham Brahmasmi. That is your God. Like they telling Narayana, Narayana. They address each other as Narayana, I think.
No, nothing. They won't tell Shiva name or Krishna name. Only 3 times they will do Omkara. That's all, Mataji.
I don't know. It might be, see, sometimes so many mental speculators. That's what they call it, as mental speculation also. They can invent their own methods, no? That also. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of this one. And so factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. So he wants to know, because in Arjuna's case, clearly he is liking the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation on what they will focus on. Personal form means you can focus on the form. There is no form, then the problem of focus will come on what they will focus. So material world or spiritual world. So that this is impersonal manifestation is troublesome. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best, because he could thus understand all of the forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. Here, see, Krishna is the basis for all other forms, whether it is the universal form, whether it's the four-handed form of Narayana, but Krishna is the basis. And so there is no disturbance to his love for Krishna. And plus, knowing Krishna, he can understand everything else. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and the personal conception of the absolute truth. So text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Aveshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddaya Parayupetas Te Me Yuktatamo Mata. Anybody would like to read? Hare Krishna. You can read.
Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddaya Parayopetas Te Me Yuktatma Mataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect.
So here is the answer, Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. Okay, here, 1 minute. Devotee most perfect, all action done in full samadhi, because his mind, all the senses are involved in the worship of Krishna. Goal of self-realization, to surrender to Krishna. So that is the goal. What is the goal? To surrender to Krishna fully. Simple and direct process, Bhakti Yoga. Certain of result. Okay. That is the advantage of Bhakti Yoga. Okay, purport by Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, tell.
Purport by Jai Srila Prabhupada. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes, whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Hare Krishna.
Because that's why he's saying all action done in full samadhi. Means totally involved with Krishna consciousness. All the time, no, he devotes his activities to Krishna. Anything he does for Krishna. Or same thing, for our sense gratification, we go to the market, we purchase vegetable, then we bring it, we cook, and then we eat. The same thing, when you offer it to Krishna, what happens? It becomes devotional service because you're doing this. And a normal person will simply hear or read books, no material books and all. Here he will hear and read books of Krishna. So the senses are used in the service of Krishna. Everything is done for Krishna. Text 3 and 4. Yetva aksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam sanyamyendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayah te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hite ratah. Anybody would like to read? Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
1 minute. Just impersonal worship, Jnana Yoga, to the unmanifested. That is impersonal, imperceptible, all pervading. Impersonal Brahman is all pervading, can't make out. Inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and movable. That is a Jnana Yoga. Okay. Then read this meaning and purport.
Hare Krishna Mataji. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at least achieve me.
At last achieve me. So that
At
immediately you will get, in the case of Bhakti Yoga, they consider to be perfect. Here they is telling at last. So they are engaging the senses, like they are trying to control the senses. There they are engaging the senses. Here they are controlling the senses. And then they become equally disposed to everyone. And they are engaged in the welfare of all. So these impersonal Brahman people. So they at last achieve. Purport by
Purport
Prabhupada.
by Srila Prabhupada. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult.
So impersonal realization is difficult. So you have to do welfare work and all this they're telling. You have to render service. You have to control the senses like this. So does welfare work for all, surrenders after many births. Suddenly he might come upon and then he might realize that Krishna is the supreme. So, but it takes so many lifetime, surrenders after many births, indirect, lengthy, difficult and troublesome process. And the result is also uncertain. So text 5, क्लेशोदिक्तरास्तेषम् अव्यक्ता सक्ता चेतसाम् अव्यक्त हि गतिर्दुःखं देहावाद्भिर् अवाप्यते. You would like to read or shall I read?
Can I try, Mataji?
Okay, go.
क्लेशो अधिकारतस्ते सम् अव्यक्तासक्तते कि चेतसम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखं देहावाप्तिरवाप्यते. Translation: for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Means those who are in the body. Embodied means those who are in the body. It is very, very difficult. Advancement. Now Krishna himself is telling you what is easy, what is difficult. Purport by Prabhupada. Jai Shri
Purport by
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. The group
Okay.
of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engage in devotional service to the Lord are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Jnana Yogis and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in the direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorially. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not ideal worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be Saguna or Nirguna of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is Saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of Lord, although represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord.
1 minute. Here, though this Archa Vigraha, it is called idol. You cannot say it is Archa Vigraha. And they don't use imagination and do this Archa Vigraha. It is according to scriptures. It is exactly how it is described in the scriptures, like threefold bending form and peacock feather. So it is like they are telling one example is like you drop a letter into any box which is colored red. It doesn't go and reach the destination. But you put it in the mailbox, it will exactly go and reach the destination. So Archa Vigraha is something like that. It has a form, but it is all according to how it is given. And after doing this Vigraha, they do Prana Pratishta, where they call in the Lord and ask him to reside in that Vigraha. So, and what happens, and ordinary people may not understand, the Lord in that Archa Vigraha form will accept all our worship. So he is like that original personality only. He is represented in the form of the Archa Vigraha. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna
A
Mataji.
crude example may
1
be
minute.
given
Somebody, 1 minute.
Mataji, it is said that it is not ideal worship. Then what is ideal worship, Mataji? Is it like a
Idol means like there is no this thing. That's what idol means. There is no fixed form and all. Here, everything is very scientific process. It's very, very scientific. that Archa Vigraha is a representation of God. And those who are transcendentalists will come and then do all this prana pratishtha process, everything. It's not just any idol. Idol means on your own imagination, you can do any, this one, no? Date. It's not, you can't call it deity. You can do some form. So that is idol. But here it's not like that. It is exactly as it is given in the scriptures. How and
Mataji, who does this idol worship then?
idol worship means so many people might be doing idol worship like. But here this is according to what is given scientifically.
Mataji, do Muslims do idol worship itself, right? They do namaz without any destinations to their prayers,
That
Mataji.
is impersonalism, not
Okay,
idol.
okay.
Where there is this thing, there is no.
Actually, we do deities worship, right, Mataji?
Deity is correct. Deity is correct, but not.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
And even if you take the demigods also, it is not like how they are, like you can say like a painting or something. Exactly how they do that deity. Even you take demigods also. Like,
Mataji, even demigods are also called as deities, right, Mataji?
Yes. See, they do it exactly like how it is. Like,
Yes.
and then they call in a particular this one. Even we can see, while doing some Satyanarayana puja or something, they'll call Ganesha, and then they say, come and sit here and have all this achamana. Like that, they give place of this thing they call. So, a crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. And okay, somebody else was reading, no? Purvi was reading,
Yes,
no?
Mataji.
Okay.
No matter. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an intimation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do that work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. The Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, we can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life.
So he accepts, like there are so many stories. I forgot that this one, in that Krishna came as a witness. There was that Sakshi Gopal. Mataji might have told you, has she told you the story of Sakshi Gopal?
No,
Has she
Mataji, but I have heard actually. I think it will be helpful for others also.
No, see, it is the representation of God only, Archa Vigraha. He takes food and then he comes. We have heard of deities talking, deities walking and telling Sakshi. And in the case of Sakshi Gopal, I think it's somewhere the deity is in Orissa. So that what happened that there was an old man and a young man. They were traveling to some place. And there, what happened? The young man was helping the old man a lot. So the old man had a daughter in the village. So he promised that young man, I will marry my daughter to you. But the young man was very reluctant. He said, I don't want to marry your daughter. But because you belong to a different, this one, family background, I belong to ordinary background. I don't want. But the old man said, no. I will marry you to my daughter. And then this one, they told, and he told this in front of Krishna, that is Gopal. So once he came back to the village, they parted ways, and the old man went one way, and the young man came another way. And after he went, and he told to his family members, they said, "How you can think of giving a daughter to that person? We cannot." And even the brother's wife, everybody said, "Just forget about the whole thing, and we just keep quiet." After 1 month or so, the young man came, and then he will tell, please marry your daughter to me because you have promised. So he said, no, I have not made any promise. But young man insists, you have to marry your daughter to me. So, but the old man refuses. So he goes straight to Sakshi, that Gopal, and tells the Gopal deity, this is what has happened to me, and you are a witness. Now you had to come. And the old man there says, okay, if you are telling, that young man says, see, you made a promise in front of the deity. That time the old man says, if that is the case, you bring him here, then I will accept. So he goes and cries in front of the deity and says, please come with me. You had to come. Then Krishna agrees to go with him. Then what happens? But Krishna tells the young man, you should not turn back and see. You have to just walk forward without looking back. The young man promises, and then they'll be walking, and the young man hears the tinkling noise of the anklets of the Lord. He'll be following. And then when he comes near the village, for some reason, he turns back and sees. Then Krishna stops, and then he becomes like a deity. There only he'll stop. Then he will go to the village and ask again, you please give the daughter in marriage. Then again they say no. And say, that young man says, see, that deity which was somewhere else has come as a witness. Then they don't believe. So he says, you come with me, I will show you. Then he takes them to that is a village there, no, he is stopped. That is end of the village. So he takes all the people there and shows them. Then they all agree, yes, that promise has been made, now it has been broken. Then the old man is forced to marry the daughter to that young man. So that deity is called as a Sakshi Gopal, which is there in Orissa now also. So like that, deity is a representation of the Lord, and he accepts devotional service in that form. Okay, you continue now. So for a devotee.
So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literature as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the perpetual feeling, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating and the remnant of the foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily talking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the path, absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up the troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result.
Okay. See, Prabhupada, no, he has found, he is a self-realized soul. He has given the process, and beautifully he has given this Bhagavad Gita as it is book for us. What is correct, what is not correct, everything is scientific. Just follow this process, and then you will realize Krishna. Then continue. A living entity is
Eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotees, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna conscious, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. There's a process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Here, they are telling impersonalism means so many disadvantages. So many disadvantages. One day telling like we are eternal souls, living entities. This one. So what happens when he wants to merge with the spiritual whole? He will realize we are Satchidananda. We are also like Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. We are also like we are minute, and he is this one. And so we might that original nature we might realize only two aspects. One is such sat feature and the chit feature, but the blissful aspect you will get only through devotional service. And jnana yogi, by some chance, so jnana yogi, he will realize only these two aspects mainly, this sat and chit features. But by some chance he goes, he comes across a devotee, then he will realize that blissful portion also, that is Satchit Ananda. All three he will realize. But what happens is, because he's been in impersonalism for a long while, he cannot give the idea of impersonalism. So it becomes very difficult for such a person to give up. Oh, the next is quite big. What do I do? Utkarshini Mataji, en madli nano? Utkarshini Mataji. The next is quite big. Shall I continue?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. It's 8:43 now. Okay. It's very big now. Okay. We can take up questions, and I can ask few questions also, Mataji.
Okay. You ask questions otherwise.
Okay. Hare Krishna to all devotees. Thank you for the prayers yesterday and Mataji also. Somehow I'm back. And then, yes, anybody has got any other doubts, you can ask Mataji. Otherwise, I'll ask the questions. So anybody has any doubts, please. Okay. In the first shloka, Mataji explained about the two kinds of transcendentalists. So who are they, and can you explain in 2 sentences each one of those 2 divisions?
Hare Krishna, Dhanat Pranam Mataji.
Pranam, please answer.
Yes, Mataji. Personalist and impersonalist.
Yes, Mataji, Gandharvika Mataji. Yes, you tell
Correct,
her.
correct.
Personalist, devotee engage himself all
In the devotional
all abilities in a devotional service, and impersonalist engage not directly in Krishna consciousness service. Impersonal Brahman, he used to engage in that.
Yes. So all senses he will engage. That is the devotee.
Personalist, he is manifested, and Brahman, who believes in Brahman, he is unmanifested.
No, that means impersonal Brahman is unmanifest.
Yes, Mataji. Who is personalist, he is manifested, and who is unpersonalist, he is unmanifested.
Okay.
Impersonal Brahman is unmanifested. And
Okay.
this is okay.
Yes.
Among the different process of realization of the absolute truth, which is the highest?
Bhakti Yoga.
Yeah, louder, Siri Mataji.
Bhakti Yoga, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. Correct alva Mataji, Gandharika Mataji.
Correct. A direct process, easier.
Yeah. Okay. In every chapter, in the conclusion part, they have what one has to do for the highest spiritual realization. Almost in every chapter, it has been given like that.
Mataji, it is said to attach to Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Gandharika Mataji, it's
Yeah,
up to
that
you.
is highest realization means this one, devotional service. unto
Devotion
Krishna.
service, one is getting attached to
Krishna.
the personal form of Krishna. It's given
One
here.
day, yes, one day.
Okay. What are the differences between this Gnana Yogi and Bhakti Yogi? First, tell who are Gnana Yogis and Bhakti Yogis. And in that only you can say the difference.
Mataji, actually, Gnana Yogis means who knows all Vedas. Like that, Mataji, he's Gnana Yogi, and who keeps Krishna as center for everything. He is known as Bhakti Yogi.
Gandharika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Jnana Yogi means by mental speculation. Means he reads lot of books, everything to know about Krishna. And he might come to a perfect conclusion or he may not come to a perfect conclusion. And he knows he will come that Sat and Chit features he will know. He will not know the bliss features. Whereas Bhakti Yogi knows all Sat, Chit, Ananda, all three features of the Lord, and direct service. Here by mental speculation, which means he will focus on the unmanifested, avyakta.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam, Mataji. Mataji, I have one doubt here. Can I please ask?
Yeah, tell me.
Mataji, can I ask in Kannada?
Okay.
ಮಾತಾಜಿ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಒಬ್ಳು ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ, ನಾನು ಬ್ಲಿಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀನಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣಗೆ. ಅವಳ ಮೋಡ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಇನ್ವರ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಅವಳು ಏನಂತಾಳಂದ್ರೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟನಲ್ಲ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ. ಅದೇನ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾತಾಜಿ? ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಅದು ಯಾವ ಮೋಡಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನಾಗಿರೋ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ನೆಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಗ್ಲಿಗೆ ಪಕ್ಕಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಳಾಗಿರೋ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ನೆಸ್?
ಅವಳು ಎಂತ ನೆನ್ಸ್ತಾಳೆ ಹೇಳಿ, ಅವಳು ಎಂತ ನೆನ್ಸ್ತಾಳೆ? ವಾಟ್ ಡಸ್ ಶಿ ಥಿಂಕ್?
ಹೀಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಅಪ್ಸೆಟ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಓಕೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಇದು ಆಯ್ತು ಬಿಡು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾಳೆ, ವಿತೌಟ್ ಎನಿ ಟ್ರೈಯಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್ something without any efforts.
But what you have to do, so you might do, but what he never says, no? Arjuna is telling like that first day.
Actually,
what he says, you have to do your duty as a kshatriya antalla first instructions alli kottidaralla. See, you can't tell, okay, now modern the effort we have to do. It's not that you have to just depend on Krishna and no, let Krishna take care.
Actually, ನಾನು ಎಫರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಫರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ಅವಳೇನಂತಾಳಂದ್ರೆ ನಿನ್ ಮೋಡ್ ಬಹಳ ರಜಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾಳೆ.
I can't tell because Krishna is only in the mode of goodness.
I mean,
ರಜಸ್ ತಮಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಗೊತ್ತು? ರಜಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೋಪ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ರಜಸ್.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಐ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಲಿಟ್ರಲಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಹಳ ಡಿಟರ್ಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅದ್ ರಜಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ರಜಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ?
ಓಕೆ
How it can be? But he doesn't pray to Krishna, na? ಅವಳು ಕೃಷ್ಣನ ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ?
She'll do Mataji. She's from HKM actually. She's my friend. ಅದೇ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ತರದ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
But I tell you one thing. I want to tell you something. Even the devotees, most of them will be in the mode of passion or ignorance only. First, from there you have to elevate yourself to the mode of goodness, then it. ಅವಳು ಪ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸಹ ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟೇ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ normally all of us, mostly it will be in the passion and ignorance only. From there you move on to goodness, then pure goodness, because once you do goodness you start understanding Krishna. So most and all the modes will be mixed. It's not the some amount of goodness will be there, some amount of passion, some amount of ignorance will be there. And only that when you come more towards the mode of goodness, then you understand Krishna. So whether she does like this or not, nammalli ellaralli sa adu unte untu. We have mode of goodness, passion, ignorance idella irutte, but in different proportions. Very proportions alli irutte, and it modes changes also according to the time of day. Like ಬೇರೆ time alli ಬೇರೆ modes ನಾವು exhibit ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, same person.
ಅದ್ ಹರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಮಾತಾಜಿ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ರಜಸ್ ಇದೆ, ತಮಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಹಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತದು.
You should not bother about comments.
Yes,
see, you are doing it for Krishna. You should always remember, atara criticism enta sa bandre sa, otherwise what happens, your devotional service will become weak. You are doing the right thing.
That's what happening for me.
You are doing the right thing and you are doing it for Krishna. If you look around what people is praising idella madidre, then it will not happen. You will not progress in your devotional service. You have to just overcome all that. Adu bother madbar. You should not bother what people are telling about your devotional service, whether I am doing the correct. Idu now maduvanthadu we have to keep doing. Adu correct agi ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. There will be criticism, there will be the nuisance ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, there will be ಇದು, but ultimately remember you are doing it for Krishna. Yes, at least for the sake of Krishna ನಾವು ಬಂದು we should just ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, because Krishna will feel happy with our actions ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
Yes, Mataji. It is very helpful, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Danat pranam.
Because ultimately you're doing it for him. Because see, the whole thing might fall apart and all. So we have to do it like that. We know all these things will be there everywhere you go. Because see, if you are in pure goodness, you will not be here anyway. You might tell anything. But if you are in pure goodness, you will not be in this world. You would have already left the material.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Because these are having three modes. Three modes of nature is there within everyone, whether it's a devotee, common person, and devotional service. Somebody will start with ignorance, somebody will start with passion, somebody in the mode of goodness will start. So different kinds of devotees also you will meet.
Yes,
that you will have, oh, devotee means high standard. Normal people means low standard. Hagi irudilla. Sometimes it will be opposite.
Okay. Hare Krishna. After realizing what, one will not envy any living entity. After what realization do we not start, and we don't envy other living entity?
This is very important.
What is very important then? When will you realize? What should you realize that? It's in the fourth shloka.
Fourth shloka.
Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere.
Present everywhere, yes.
Yeah, when we will understand that, then no, we will not envy any other living entity. Because there will be no difference between a man and animal. Because he sees the soul only. So that's that outer covering will not be mattering. Okay.
So Bhakti Yogi will be knowing impersonal realization, Brahman, Paramatma, all realization is possible for a Bhakti Yogi. All the three realizations will be there for him.
All the three realizations, yes, Mataji. Okay, Mataji also gave an example, which is also here. which a nice analogy about the mailbox on the street. Can anyone explain that analogy? That example? It's about the Archa Vigraha. Anyone can answer? Fifth look.
Mailbox. And if we post our letters in this box, they will naturally go their destination without difficulty. Means Mataji is representing deities as a mailbox. When we attach to them, there is no distractions for our bhakti or something. Whatever we need, we reach our destination, Mataji.
Exactly. If supposing some idol or some other thing
Deity
which has
worship.
not been
Authorized.
done properly, supposing
Authorized mailbox.
yes, supposing there is some stone which is not properly installed, you go and worship, it will not reach anywhere. One example, some stone in the road, you just worship. Without proper installation, you will not have much result. It's like that ordinary mailbox.
Okay, last question. Which is the strict advice Lord Krishna himself has given? What we should not follow the process. It's not advised by the Lord Krishna. Same thing what Mataji kept on telling.
The process centering attention on unmanifested.
Mm.
It is not advisable by Lord Krishna.
Yeah, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the sense.
Inconceivable, yes.
Mataji, Gandharika Mataji.
Yes.
Fifth shloka, last part. Purportally.
It is not encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. Because it is difficult, and Krishna has a beautiful form. So why will you do this?
Yes, Mataji. Okay, that's all, Mataji. No more questions.
Thank you very much, Utkashni Mataji. Nim questions gela. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Mataji,
you all.
very happy to hear you and your voice, Mataji, today.
Thank you.
Hari bol.
Hari
Thank
bol.
you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Yeah, remember always, you are coming here not for somebody. It is for your own self, for your own devotional service. And when you are doing anywhere, you are doing it for him, for Krishna. Then you will not fail. Okay? Thank you.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. It's very helpful, Mataji. Hari bol.
Hari bol.
Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Grantaraj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gurudev ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha.
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Vaishnaveभ्यो Koti Vaishnav ki jai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gandharika Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.